The starship Horizon's Edge floated silently in the darkness of space. Below it, the beautiful planet of Valora Prime glowed with soft purple and blue colors. Captain Park Jun stood at the large window of his ship and looked down at the alien world. His heart beat fast with excitement and fear. "Captain, they are coming," said Lieutenant Kim Hana from her station. Her voice was calm, but June could see her hands shaking slightly. "The Valorian shuttle will arrive in 15 minutes. June turned away from the window and looked at his crew. They were the best people Earth had sent into space. Each one of them had trained for years for this moment, but nothing could truly prepare them for meeting an alien species for the first time. "Everyone, gather in the greeting bay," June ordered. "This is the day we have been waiting for. The Valorians have invited us to their world. We must show them that humans are peaceful and friendly." Dr. Lee Tay, the ship's cultural expert, walked beside the captain as they moved through the metal hallways. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent his whole life studying how different cultures meet and talk to each other. "Captain, I must warn you," Tay said quietly. "We do not know much about Valorian customs. Our information is limited. We know they are a matriarchal society. This means women hold the power. The delegation coming to meet us will be all female." "What about their greeting customs?" June asked. Tay shook his head slowly. "That is the problem. We do not know how they greet strangers. Our research teams could not find this information. We will have to be ready for anything." Commander Yoon Dae joined them near the greeting bay. He was a tall, strong man with serious eyes. As the security chief, it was his job to keep everyone safe. He did not like surprises, and today was full of them. "I have positioned my security team nearby," Dae said. "They will not be visible, but they are ready if anything goes wrong." June nodded. "Good. But remember, we are here to make friends, not enemies. No one touches a weapon unless I give the order." The greeting bay was a large white room with bright lights. The crew had cleaned it perfectly for this special occasion. Blue and green banners hung on the walls, showing Earth's colors. A long table held gifts for the Valorians, samples of human art, music recordings, and seeds from Earth's most beautiful flowers. Lieutenant Kim Hana checked her translator device one more time. She was young, only 28 years old, but she was the best language expert in the fleet. She had already learned the basics of the Valorian language from the few messages they had exchanged. "The translator is working perfectly," she reported. "I should be able to understand their words and help them understand ours." Ensign Choi Soo stood nervously at the back of the group. He was the youngest crew member, just 23. His job was to record everything that happened for Earth's history files. His hands trembled as he held his recording device. "Ensign, are you all right?" Hana asked him with a gentle smile. "Yes, Lieutenant," Sue replied, though his voice was high with nervousness. "I just never thought I would actually meet aliens. I used to dream about this when I was a child." "We all did," Hana said, "and now that dream is about to become real." A loud sound filled the room. The Valorian shuttle had connected to their ship. Everyone stood straighter and tried to look calm and professional. June adjusted his uniform and took a deep breath. "Remember," he said to his crew, "smile and be respectful. Follow my lead. If they do something strange, do not react badly. Different cultures have different ways." The airlock door began to open slowly. Cold mist floated out from the Valorian shuttle. Through the white fog, dark shapes began to appear. The crew held their breath. The first alien stepped into the light. She was tall, much taller than any human. Her skin was silver and seemed to glow softly from inside. She had 4 arms instead of 2, and her eyes were large and deep purple. Long white hair flowed down her back like a waterfall of snow. She wore a flowing dress made of some shining material that moved like water. Behind her came 2 more Valorians. One was older, with lines of wisdom on her silver face. The other was young and looked around the room with excited, curious eyes. All 3 of them were beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. June stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Welcome to the Horizon's Edge," he said slowly and clearly. "I am Captain Park June. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we are honored to meet you." He waited for the translation to reach them through their own devices. The lead Valorian, who June guessed was their ambassador, listened carefully. Her large purple eyes studied his face. Then something unexpected happened. The ambassador's expression changed. Her eyes grew wide with some emotion June could not understand. Was it joy? Excitement? He could not tell. Before anyone could react, she moved forward with incredible speed. She rushed straight toward Captain Park Jun. Commander Yoon Dae's hand flew to his weapon. The security teams hidden nearby tensed and prepared to act. The human crew gasped in shock, but Jun raised his hand quickly, stopping everyone from moving. His instincts told him this was not an attack. The ambassador's face did not show anger or threat. It showed something else entirely. The tall silver alien reached the captain in seconds. Her four hands rose up toward his face. Two of them gently but firmly grasped his cheeks. She pulled his head toward hers, and then she pressed her forehead against his. June froze completely. He could feel warmth spreading from where their skin touched. The ambassador's eyes closed, and she breathed deeply. The moment lasted for what felt like forever. The entire human crew stood in stunned silence. No one knew what to do. No one knew what was happening. When the ambassador finally pulled back, her eyes were shining with emotion. She looked at June with an expression of deep wonder. Then she turned and walked toward Lieutenant Kim Hana. June's mind raced with questions. What had just happened? What did this greeting mean? And more importantly, what were they supposed to do now? The ambassador was already reaching for Hana's face. Lieutenant Kim Hana felt her heart stop as the tall silver alien approached her. The ambassador moved with grace and purpose. Her four hands reached out, and before Hana could step back, she felt warm fingers on her cheeks. The ambassador pressed her forehead against Hana's. A strange sensation washed over the young lieutenant. It was like a warm wave moving through her mind. She felt exposed somehow, as if someone was looking deep inside her heart. The feeling lasted only a few seconds, but it felt much longer. When the ambassador pulled away, her purple eyes were filled with curiosity. She tilted her head slightly as if Hana was a puzzle she wanted to solve. Then the ambassador moved on to the next person. One by one, she approached every human in the room. She pressed her forehead against Dr. Lee Tae, who stood very still with his eyes wide open. She did the same to Commander Yoon Dae, who looked extremely uncomfortable but did not resist. Even young Ensign Choi Soo received the strange greeting, though his face turned bright red with embarrassment. The two other Valorians followed their ambassador. The older one moved slowly and touched each human with great care. The young one was faster and more enthusiastic, almost bouncing with excitement after each forehead touch. When they had greeted every human in the room, the ambassador finally spoke. "Your souls are warm," she said. The translator made her voice sound musical and soft. "We are honored to meet you. I am Ambassador Lyra of the Valorian High Council." She gestured to the older alien beside her. "This is Counselor Venna, my advisor and teacher." Then she pointed to the young one. "And this is Attaché Kira, who is here to learn the ways of diplomacy." Captain Park Jun tried to find his voice. His mind was still spinning from the strange greeting. We are honored to meet you as well, Ambassador Lyra. Welcome to our ship." He noticed that his voice sounded stiff and formal. The other crew members also seemed frozen, their bodies tight with tension. They were clearly unsure how to act after what had happened. Lyra looked at them with her head tilted. Her expression slowly changed from wonder to confusion. She turned to Counselor Venna and spoke in their own language. The translator did not catch all the words, but Hana heard enough. "They are so stiff," Lyra said. "Their bodies are like stone." Venna nodded slowly. Her old face was serious. "They did not return the greeting, Ambassador. Not one of them." Lyra's eyes widened. She looked back at the humans with what seemed like concern. "Do you think they reject us? Do they not wish to share souls with us?" Hana listened carefully, understanding most of their conversation through her own knowledge of their language. She suddenly realized something terrible. The humans had made a mistake, a big one. "Captain," she whispered urgently, stepping close to June, "I think we have a problem." But there was no time to explain. Lyra had turned back to face them, and her expression was now careful and guarded. "Perhaps humans are tired from waiting for us," Lyra said politely. "We should give you time to rest before we begin our discussions." "That is very kind," June replied, sensing the change in the air. Something had gone wrong, but he did not understand what. "Let me show you to the rooms we have prepared for you." The Valorians followed the captain through the ship. They walked in silence now, and the warm atmosphere from before had disappeared. Counselor Venna walked close to Lyra and whispered things that the translator could not hear. Attaché Kira was the only one who seemed unchanged. She looked around at everything with bright, curious eyes. She stared at the metal walls, the glowing screens, the human crew members they passed. Her young face was full of wonder. Once the Valorians were settled in their guest rooms, Captain June quickly called his senior officers to a private meeting room. "What happened out there?" he demanded. "Something changed. The ambassador seemed happy at first, but then she became distant. What did we do wrong?" Dr. Lee Tay rubbed his forehead. He looked worried and tired. "I think I understand now, Captain. The forehead touching was not random. It is their traditional greeting. They call it a soul touch." "A soul touch?" Commander Yoon Dai repeated. "What does that mean?" "From what I could observe," Tay explained, "the soul touch allows Valorians to sense the emotional state of another person. When Ambassador Lyra touched our foreheads, she was reading our feelings. She was trying to understand our hearts." "That explains the warm sensation I felt," Hana added. "It was like she was looking inside me." Tay nodded. "The problem is that the soul touch is meant to be returned. Both people are supposed to do it to each other. When we stood there like statues, we failed to return their greeting." June felt his stomach drop. "What does that mean to them? What message did we send?" "In their culture," Tay said slowly, "refusing to return the soul touch means you do not trust the other person. It means you are hiding your emotions because you do not want them to know you. It is like saying, 'I do not accept you as a friend.'" The room fell silent. Everyone understood the seriousness of the situation. "We did not mean to insult them," June said. "We were just surprised. We did not know what to do." "I know, Captain," Tay replied, "but they do not know that. To them, we looked cold and unwelcoming. We may have damaged this diplomatic mission before it truly began." Hana stood up suddenly. "We need to explain. We need to tell them that humans do not greet each other this way. Physical contact with strangers is not normal for us. It does not mean we reject them." "Will they believe us?" Yundai asked doubtfully. At that moment, there was a soft knock on the door. Everyone turned to look as it opened. Attaché Kira stood in the doorway. Her young silver face looked nervous but determined. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I do not mean to interrupt, but I have a question." She looked directly at Ensign Choi Su, who had been standing quietly in the corner. "Human with the recording device, you were the last one Ambassador Lyra greeted? You turned very red in the face." Sue blushed again just thinking about it. "Yes, that is true." "Why?" Kira asked simply. "Are you sick? Or did our greeting hurt you?" Sue shook his head quickly. "No, no, it did not hurt. I was just embarrassed. Humans do not usually touch faces with people we just met. It felt very personal." Kira's eyes grew wide. "Personal? You mean intimate? Like something for close family?" "Something like that," Sue admitted. Kira was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. Then her face lit up with understanding. "Oh, you are not cold people. You just have different customs for warmth." She smiled brightly. "This is very important. I must tell Ambassador Lyra right away." She turned to leave but stopped at the door. "Please do not worry, humans. I believe you are good people. Your souls felt warm, even if your greeting did not." With that, she hurried away down the hallway. Captain June looked at his crew with new hope in his eyes. Perhaps this young alien would help them fix their mistake. But deep inside, he knew the real test was still coming. They would have to prove their friendship was real. The next morning, the tension on the ship was thick enough to cut with a knife. Captain Park June had barely slept. He kept thinking about the failed greeting and what it might mean for humanity's future among the stars. In the dining hall, the Valorians sat at one table, and the humans sat at another. The distance between them felt much larger than just a few meters. Ambassador Lyra ate her food quietly. Her silver face showed no expression, but her eyes kept looking at the humans with questions in them. Counselor Venna sat beside her, old and serious as always. Only Attaché Kira seemed relaxed, and she kept glancing at Ensign Choi Su with friendly curiosity. Dr. Lee Tay approached Captain June with urgent news. "I have been researching all night," he said quietly. "I found more information about the soul touch. It is worse than I thought." "How can it be worse?" June asked. "In Valorian culture, The soul touch is sacred, Tay explained. When someone offers it and the other person does not return it, it is a great insult. It basically says, "You are not worthy of knowing my heart." Some Valorian families have refused to speak to each other for generations because of such insults. June closed his eyes and took a deep breath. So we accidentally told them we think they are not worthy of our friendship. That is how they may see it, yes, Tay confirmed. Lieutenant Kim Hana joined them at the table. Captain, I have an idea. What if we ask for a cultural exchange meeting? We can explain human customs to them, and they can teach us about theirs. It might help them understand that we meant no insult. That is a good idea, June agreed. But will Ambassador Lyra accept? Before anyone could answer, Attaché Kira appeared at their table. She moved quietly, like a gentle wind. Her purple eyes were bright with hope. I spoke to Ambassador Lyra last night, Kira said. I told her what Ensign Sue explained to me about human customs. She was very surprised. She did not know that other species might greet differently. What did she say? Hana asked eagerly. She said she needs to think about it, Kira replied, but I believe she wants to understand. Lyra is not a cold person. She is just hurt and confused. Counselor Venna appeared behind Kira. The old Valorian looked at the humans with her wise, serious eyes. Ambassador Lyra has agreed to have a cultural exchange meeting, she announced. We will gather in 1 hour in the conference room. Be prepared to share your customs honestly. The humans quickly prepared for the meeting. They gathered pictures of Earth, recordings of human greetings from different countries, and examples of how humans show friendship. 1 hour later, both groups sat facing each other in the conference room. The air was still tense, but there was also a small feeling of hope. Let us begin, Captain June said. Ambassador Lyra, first I want to apologize. When you greeted us yesterday, we did not understand what you were doing. We were surprised and unsure how to react. Please believe that we meant no insult. Lyra studied his face carefully. When I touched your soul, I felt warmth inside you. But when you did not return my touch, I thought I had been wrong about your feelings. It confused me greatly. In our culture, Hana explained gently, touching is usually reserved for people we already know well. Family, close friends, romantic partners. We do not touch strangers because we want to respect their personal space. Personal space? Lyra repeated the unfamiliar words. It means the area around our bodies that belongs only to us, Hana continued. When strangers enter that space without permission, it can feel uncomfortable or even threatening. It is not that we do not like them. We just need time to become comfortable. Kira leaned forward with interest. So how do humans greet new people? Many ways, Dr. Lee Tay answered. He showed them pictures on a screen. In some cultures, we shake hands. In others, we bow. Some people wave or simply say hello with words. He demonstrated a handshake with Commander Yunde. The Valorians watched with fascination. So little touching, Venna observed. How do you know if someone is trustworthy? How do you feel their soul? We do not feel souls the same way you do, June admitted. We learn to trust people slowly, over time. We watch their actions, we listen to their words, we share experiences together. Trust grows like a plant, little by little. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Her 4 hands were folded in her lap. Finally, she spoke. This is very different from our way. Valorians are connected to each other emotionally. We share feelings naturally, like breathing air. We cannot imagine living without knowing the hearts of those around us. It sounds beautiful, Hana said softly. We humans must work harder to understand each other. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we misunderstand and hurt each other. But we keep trying. You live alone inside yourselves, Lyra said slowly, as if realizing something important. Each of you carries your own emotions without sharing them with others. How lonely that must be. It can be lonely, June agreed, but it also makes our connections more meaningful. When a human chooses to trust someone, it is a gift. It takes courage to open our hearts when we do not know how the other person will react. Kira suddenly understood. That is why the soul touch felt so personal to you. When Lyra touched your faces, it was like she was asking for your deepest trust before you were ready to give it. Exactly, Hana said with a small smile. You were asking for something very precious, before we knew you well enough to offer it. Lyra looked down at her hands. When she looked up again, her expression had changed. There was understanding in her eyes now, mixed with something like respect. I see now, she said. I asked for your trust without earning it. In your culture, that was rude of me. You did not know, June said kindly. Neither of us knew. That is why this meeting is so important. We are learning about each other. The tension in the room was finally beginning to fade. The two groups were starting to see each other as confused strangers rather than cold enemies. But Lyra held up one of her hands. Her face became serious again. I understand better now, she said, but there is still a problem. When we return to Valora Prime, I must report to the High Council. If I tell them that humans did not return our sacred greeting, they will see it as rejection, no matter the reason. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the problem. Understanding was growing between them, but it might not be enough for the Valorian leaders. There is one way to fix this, Lyra continued slowly. To prove that humans truly wish to be our friends, one of you must choose to perform the soul touch with me, willingly and openly. This will show that humans can adapt and accept our customs when they understand them. She looked at each human face. Who among you will trust me with your soul? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Everyone knew that one of them would have to step forward and do something that felt deeply uncomfortable. But who would it be? The silence in the conference room stretched on and on. Ambassador Lyra's questions still echoed in everyone's minds. Who would perform the soul touch? Who would open their heart to an alien stranger? Commander Yoon Dae was the first to speak. I will do it, he said firmly. As security chief, it is my duty to protect this mission. If performing this ritual will save our diplomatic relationship, then I will take the risk. Dr. Lee Tae shook his head slowly. With respect, Commander, I do not think you are the right choice. The soul touch reveals a person's true emotions. You are naturally guarded and careful. Those are good qualities for security, but Lyra might feel only walls and caution from you. What are you saying? Day asked with a frown. I am saying that whoever does this must be willing to be truly open, Tay explained. The Valorians can sense when someone is holding back. If we send someone who cannot be emotionally vulnerable, the ritual might make things worse. Captain Park Jun stepped forward. Then I will do it. I am the captain. This is my responsibility. Captain, you are too important to risk, Day argued. We do not fully understand what this ritual does to a person. What if something goes wrong? Lyra raised her hand gently. The soul touch does not harm the body, she assured them. It only opens a window to your emotional state. You will feel exposed, perhaps vulnerable, but you will not be hurt. Perhaps vulnerable, Day repeated. That does not sound safe. It is not about safety, Lyra said. It is about trust. True trust always requires some risk. Lieutenant Kim Hana had been listening quietly. Now she took a deep breath and stepped forward. I will do it, she said clearly. Everyone turned to look at her. Captain Jun's eyes widened with surprise. Lieutenant, are you sure? He asked. Hana nodded firmly. I am the communications officer. It is literally my job to build bridges between different peoples. I spent years learning to understand other cultures and languages. If anyone on this ship should do this, it is me. Hana is right, Tai said thoughtfully. She is naturally empathetic and open. The Valorians will sense her genuine desire to connect. Lyra studied Hana with interested eyes. You are the young woman who understood some of our language yesterday. I noticed you listening when I spoke to Venom. Hana blushed slightly. I studied Valorian for many months before this mission. I wanted to understand your people as much as possible. Then you have already been reaching toward us, Lyra said. A small smile appeared on her silver face. That is a good sign. The decision was made. Hana would perform the soul touch with Ambassador Lyra. The next few hours were spent preparing for the ritual. Counselor Venna explained the proper way to do the soul touch. The person must approach calmly, without fear in their heart. They must place their hands gently on the other person's face and press their forehead forward until the skin touched. The most important thing, Venna said, is to let your emotions flow freely. Do not try to hide anything. Do not try to show only good feelings. The soul touch works best when both people are completely honest. Attaché Kira sat with Hana and helped her prepare mentally. The young Valorian was gentle and encouraging. When Lyra touches your soul, you will feel her emotions too, Kira explained. It goes both ways. You will know her just as she knows you. That is what makes the soul touch sacred. Both people become open to each other at the same time. Is it scary? Hana asked honestly. Kira thought for a moment. It can be, if you are sharing with someone you do not trust, but it can also be beautiful, like suddenly understanding someone completely without words or confusion, like becoming close friends in a single moment. Hana nodded slowly. She was nervous, but she was also curious. What would it feel like to truly share her soul with another person? The ritual was held in the Valorian shuttle, in a special room they called the Chamber of Connection. The walls were covered with soft, glowing crystals that pulsed gently with different colors. The light was dim and peaceful. Both the human crew and the Valorian delegation gathered around the edges of the room. They would all witness this important moment. Ambassador Lyra stood in the center of the room, tall and beautiful. Her silver skin glowed in the crystal light. She looked calm and welcoming, very different from the confused, hurt alien she had seen before. Lieutenant Kim Hana walked toward her slowly. Her heart was beating fast, but she forced herself to breathe steadily. She remembered Vena's words, approach calmly, without fear. When she stood in front of Lyra, she looked up into the ambassador's purple eyes. They were kind and patient. Are you ready, young one? Lyra asked softly. I am ready, Hana replied. She raised her hands and placed them gently on Lyra's silver cheeks. The skin was warm, almost like touching sunlight. She felt Lyra's hands come up to hold her face in return. Slowly, carefully, Hana leaned forward. Their foreheads touched. Immediately, Hana felt something she had never experienced before. It was like a door opening in her mind. Suddenly, she could feel Lyra's emotions as clearly as her own. She felt curiosity, hope, lingering hurt from the earlier misunderstanding, and deep kindness. At the same time, she knew that Lyra was feeling her emotions too. There was nothing Hana could hide. Her nervousness, her desire to help, her love for her crew, her hope for peace between their peoples. Everything was open and visible. The connection lasted for what felt like hours, but was really only seconds. When they finally pulled apart, Hana saw that Lyra's eyes were wide with shock. The ambassador stepped back, her four hands trembling slightly. What is it? Hana asked, suddenly worried. Did I do something wrong? Lyra shook her head slowly. Her voice was barely a whisper. Your species, she said. You carry so much pain inside you. I felt grief, fear, loneliness, things I have never felt so strongly before. Your emotions are like storms. Hana felt tears forming in her eyes. She had not meant to share anything sad, but Lyra was not finished. She stepped forward again and took Hana's hands in hers. And yet, Lyra continued, alongside all that pain, I felt something incredible. Hope, love, determination. You carry darkness and light together in the same heart. How is this possible? How do you survive such intensity? Hana did not know how to answer. She just knew that something important had happened. Something had changed between humans and Valorians forever. Counselor Vena stepped forward, her old eyes shining with tears that glowed golden on her silver cheeks. In all my years, Vena said softly, I have never felt such emotional depth from a single soul. Humans are not cold at all. They are burning. They simply burn quietly inside themselves, where others cannot see. Lyra nodded slowly. She was still holding Hana's hands, and now she squeezed them gently. You are warriors of the heart, Lyra said with deep respect. You fight battles inside yourselves that we cannot imagine. And somehow, despite everything, you still reach out to others with warmth. Hana felt tears running down her cheeks. She did not feel embarrassed. In this moment, emotions were meant to flow freely. We are not as strong as you think, she said honestly. We break sometimes. We fail. We hurt each other. Lyra smiled softly. Perhaps, but you keep going. That is what makes you remarkable. Captain Park Jun watched from the edge of the room with pride filling his heart. His young lieutenant had just done something incredible. She had shown the Valorians who humans really were. But deep inside, June knew this was only the beginning. The true test still waited on Valora Prime, where the High Council would judge humanity's worth. Would they be as understanding as Ambassador Lyra? Somehow June doubted it would be that easy. After the soul touch ritual, everything changed between the humans and Valorians. The distance that had separated them melted away like morning fog. Now they sat together, ate together, and talked together like old friends. Ambassador Lyra spent hours with Lieutenant Kim Hana, asking question after question about human emotions. She was fascinated by what she had experienced during the soul touch. "I still cannot understand it," Lyra said one evening as they sat in the observation room. Stars sparkled beyond the window like scattered diamonds. "When I touched your soul, I felt centuries of accumulated feeling. Joy and sorrow, love and fear, hope and despair, all mixed together, all burning at the same time. How do you live with such intensity every day?" Hana thought carefully before answering. "I suppose we are used to it. We do not know any other way. Our emotions are always with us, like our heartbeats. Sometimes they are loud, sometimes quiet, but they never stop." "For Valorians, it is different," Lyra explained. "We share our emotions with our community. When one of us feels great sadness, others help carry that weight. When one feels joy, everyone shares in it. Our feelings are diluted across many souls." "That sounds peaceful," Hana said softly. "It is," Lyra agreed. "But after touching your soul, I wonder if we miss something. Your emotions are stronger because you carry them alone. Your love burns brighter because it belongs only to you." Meanwhile, Counselor Venna had asked to speak with Dr. Lee Tay. The old Valorian wanted to understand human history. She believed that a species' past could explain its present. Tay agreed to share their story. He gathered the Valorians in the meeting room and showed them images and recordings from Earth's history. "We are a young species," Tay began, "only about 300,000 years old. For most of that time, we lived in small groups, struggling to survive. We faced predators, diseases, harsh weather, and hunger." He showed pictures of ancient humans hunting with simple tools. The Valorians watched with interest. "As we grew smarter, we built civilizations," Tay continued. "Cities, kingdoms, empires. But we also fought terrible wars against each other. Millions of lives were lost." He showed images of battlefields, destroyed cities, and people suffering. Attaché Kira covered her mouth with her hand, her purple eyes filling with tears. "Why?" she asked in a small voice. "Why did you hurt each other so badly?" "Fear, mostly," Tay answered honestly. "Fear of those who were different. Fear of not having enough food or land. Fear of losing power. We are a species that learned to survive by fighting, and sometimes we could not stop fighting, even when we should have." Counselor Venna shook her head slowly. "Such pain, such violence. How did you not destroy yourselves completely?" Tay smiled gently. "Because alongside our capacity for violence, we have an equal capacity for love. Every war was followed by peace. Every destruction was followed by rebuilding. Every generation tried to be better than the one before." He showed them different images now. People helping each other after disasters, doctors healing the sick, teachers educating children, friends laughing together, families holding each other with love. "This is also who we are," Tay said. "We create art and music and stories. We build hospitals and schools. We reach out to strangers in need. We dream of better futures and work to make them real." The Valorians watched in silence. Golden tears streamed down their silver faces. They had never seen a species that contained such extremes of darkness and light. "You are walking contradictions," Venna said finally, "capable of terrible cruelty and incredible kindness. How do you balance these things inside yourselves?" "We struggle," Tay admitted. "Every day, every person must choose which side of their nature to follow. Some choose poorly, many choose well. The struggle is eternal, but that makes our victories meaningful." Lyra spoke up from her seat. "When I touched Lieutenant Hana's soul, I felt that struggle. I felt the weight of your history in her heart, all the pain of your ancestors, all their hopes for the future, all pressed into one small human." She looked at Hana with new respect. "You carry the burdens of your entire species in your individual souls. That is why your emotions are so intense. You have inherited all of humanity's suffering and dreams. We call it being human, Hana said simply. Attaché Kira was sitting next to Ensign Choi Su. Throughout the presentation, she had been gripping his hand tightly. Now she turned to him with wonder in her eyes. You feel all of this? She asked. Every human carries this weight? Su nodded, a bit embarrassed by her attention. I suppose we do. We just do not think about it much. It is normal for us. Kira shook her head in amazement. You are so small and fragile. Your lives are so short. Yet you carry burdens that would crush most species. I do not know if you are brave or crazy. Su laughed softly. Maybe both. Kira reached into a pocket of her dress and pulled out a small crystal that glowed with inner light. This is a memory crystal from Valora Prime. It contains recordings of our most beautiful songs. I want you to have it. Su accepted the gift with careful hands. Thank you. This means a lot to me. You gave me understanding, Kira said warmly. This is my gift in return. Captain Park Jun watched his crew bonding with the Valorians, and he felt pride swelling in his chest. They had come so close to failure. A simple misunderstanding had almost ruined everything. But now they were building something real, something lasting. Ambassador Lyra approached him by the window. Her silver face was thoughtful. Captain June, she said, I have spoken with Counselor Venna. We agree that your species is remarkable. You are not what we expected. What did you expect? June asked curiously. We expected cold logic, Lyra admitted. Our scientists said humans were intelligent, but emotionally limited. They were very wrong. She placed one of her hands on his shoulder. The touch was warm and friendly. I would like to invite you and your crew to visit Valora Prime, she said. There you can address the High Matriarchal Council directly. They need to meet humans for themselves. They need to feel what I have felt. June felt honored but also worried. Will the council be open to meeting us? Lyra's expression became serious. I must warn you, Captain. The High Matriarchs are not like me. They are old and traditional. They have lived for centuries and seen many things. They will not trust easily, and they will test you before accepting you. Test us how? June asked. I do not know exactly, Lyra replied, but I know this. Elder Sorvina, the oldest and most powerful of them, has never approved of contact with outsiders. She believes other species are too different to understand. Convincing her will be your greatest challenge. June looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on Valora Prime, an ancient being waited to judge humanity's worth. Everything they had achieved so far might mean nothing if they could not pass her test. But June also knew they had no choice. This was why they had come. This was humanity's moment to prove itself to the galaxy. We accept your invitation, he said firmly. When do we leave? Lyra smiled. The shuttle will take us down to the planet tomorrow. Rest well tonight, Captain. You will need your strength. As she walked away, June took a deep breath. Tomorrow, everything would change. He only hoped his crew was ready. Deep down, he knew they would have to be. The shuttle descended through clouds of purple and gold. Through the window, Captain Park June watched as Valora Prime revealed itself below. The planet was covered with crystalline cities that sparkled in the light of two suns. Rivers of glowing water flowed between mountains made of some kind of shimmering stone. It was the most beautiful world he had ever seen. Lieutenant Kim Hana sat beside him, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Dr. Lee Tae was reviewing his notes on Valorian customs for the 100th time. They were the only 3 humans going to meet the High Council. The rest of the crew waited on the ship above. Ambassador Lyra noticed their nervousness. Do not worry too much, she said kindly. The council may be stern, but they are fair. Show them the same honesty you showed me, and you will be fine. You said Elder Sorvina would test us, June reminded her. What kind of test? Lyra hesitated. I truly do not know. Sorvina has lived for over 800 years. She has seen many species come to Valora Prime, seeking friendship or alliance. Some she accepted, others she rejected. Her methods are her own. The shuttle landed gently in a courtyard of pure white crystal. When the doors opened, June felt warm air wash over him, carrying strange but pleasant smells. Flowers that glowed with inner light grew everywhere. Small creatures with wings of light fluttered between the petals. A group of Valorian guards waited to escort them. Unlike Lyra and her delegation, these Valorians wore armor made of crystal and metal. They carried staffs that hummed with energy. Their faces were serious and watchful. "Follow us," the lead guard said simply. The humans walked through streets filled with Valorians going about their daily lives. Everyone stopped to stare at the strange visitors. Some looked curious. Others looked suspicious. Children hid behind their mothers' legs and peeked out with wide purple eyes. The great chamber of the High Council was the largest building in the city. It rose high into the sky, its walls made of giant crystals that caught the sunlight and threw rainbows across the ground. Two enormous doors carved with images of Valorian history opened slowly as they approached. Inside, the chamber was filled with hundreds of Valorian women. They sat in circular rows that rose up like the seats of an ancient theater. All of them were old, some incredibly old. Their silver skin had darkened to gray with age, and their eyes held the weight of centuries. At the center of the highest row sat the oldest Valorian of all. Elder Sorvina looked down at the humans with an expression of cold evaluation. Her skin was so dark it was almost black, and her eyes were not purple but deep red, like dying stars. She sat perfectly still, like a statue carved from shadow. Captain June felt fear touch his heart. This being was ancient beyond his understanding. What could he possibly say to impress her? Ambassador Lyra stepped forward and bowed deeply. "High Mothers of Valora, I bring before you representatives of the species called humanity. They have traveled far to meet you and seek friendship with our people. We have heard your reports, Lyra." Sorvina's voice was deep and rough, like stone grinding against stone. "You claim these creatures are emotionally remarkable, that their souls burn with unusual intensity. Do you stand by these claims?" "I do, Elder," Lyra replied firmly. "I have touched their souls myself. They are not what our scientists believed. They are far more complex, far more passionate." Sorvina's red eyes moved slowly to focus on the three humans. "Passionate species are often dangerous. Strong emotions lead to strong actions. What guarantee do we have that these creatures will not turn their passions against us?" June stepped forward and bowed in the way Counselor Venna had taught him. "Elder Sorvina, I am Captain Park June of the United Earth Fleet. I cannot promise you that humans will never make mistakes. We are imperfect beings. But I can promise you that we come here with genuine desire for peace and understanding." "Words," Sorvina said dismissively. "Any creature can speak pleasant words. We require proof." She raised one of her ancient hands. "There is only one way for us to truly know the nature of your species. You must undergo the trial of resonance. In this trial, you will open your complete emotional history to this entire council. Every memory, every feeling, every secret of your heart will be laid bare before us." The chamber fell completely silent. Even Lyra looked shocked. Hannah leaned close to June. "Captain, that sounds like the soul touch, but much more intense. If the entire council joins at once, the emotional exposure would be enormous. It would be like being naked before hundreds of strangers." Tay added quietly. "Everything you have ever felt, everything you have ever experienced, would be revealed." June understood the weight of what was being asked. This was not just a greeting or a ritual. This was complete and total vulnerability. Every fear, every shame, every painful memory of his life would be open for ancient beings to examine and judge. He could refuse. No one could force him. But if he refused, humanity would fail. The Valorians would see it as proof that humans had something to hide, something dark and untrustworthy. There was really no choice at all. "I will undergo the trial of resonance," June said, keeping his voice steady. "I ask only that my crew members be spared. I am the captain. I represent my species. Let me carry this burden alone." Sorvina studied him for a long moment. Something flickered in her red eyes. Was it surprise? Respect? June could not tell. "Very well," she said. "Step forward, human. Open your soul to us." June walked to the center of the chamber. He felt incredibly small, surrounded by the circular rows of ancient Valorians rising above him. Their eyes bore into him from every direction. One by one, the high matriarchs stood and descended from their seats. They formed a circle around him, hundreds of silver hands reaching toward his face. Each of them would touch him, connect to him, experience him. June closed his eyes and thought about his life. He thought about his parents, who had worked hard to give him a good education. He thought about his younger brother, Jin, who had died in a shuttle accident when they were both young. The grief of that loss still lived inside him, a wound that never fully healed. He thought about his years in the academy, working harder than anyone else to become the best. He thought about his crew, who trusted him with their lives. He thought about this mission and how much was riding on his shoulders. And then the hands touched him. The sensation was overwhelming. It was not like the gentle touch he had witnessed between Hana and Lyra. This was a tidal wave, a flood of connection that threatened to sweep him away. He felt hundreds of minds pressing against his, demanding entry. He did not resist. He opened himself completely. The memories came rushing out like water from a broken dam. His childhood laughter, his brother's death, his mother's tears, his determination to honor Jin's memory by achieving something great, his fears of failure, his pride in his crew, his hope for a better future. Everything he was, everything he had ever been, poured out into the Valorian minds surrounding him, and he felt them react. He felt their shock at the depth of his grief. He felt their amazement at his persistence despite pain. He felt their wonder at the love he carried for people he had never met, millions of humans on distant Earth who would never know his name, but whom he served faithfully. Time lost all meaning. The trial could have lasted minutes or hours. June did not know. When the hands finally pulled away, he collapsed to his knees. His whole body was trembling. He felt empty, like everything inside him had been poured out and examined. Slowly, he raised his head and looked up at Elder Sorvina. The ancient Valorian was crying. Golden tears rolled down her dark silver cheeks, glowing like drops of sunlight. In 800 years, no one had ever seen her cry. "You are not cold," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You are not cold at all. You are forged in fire." She stepped closer to him, and her voice grew stronger. "But tell me, human, if you carry such burdens alone, if you feel such pain without sharing it, why do you not break? How do you continue when the weight is so great?" June looked up at her, exhausted but unbowed. He knew the answer. He had always known. But finding the words to say it was harder than any trial he had ever faced. Captain Park June remained on his knees, looking up at Elder Sorvina. Her question echoed in his mind. Why do you not break? How do you continue when the weight is so great? He thought carefully before answering. This was the most important moment of his life. Not just his life, but the future of his entire species depended on what he said next. Slowly, he pushed himself to his feet. His legs were weak, but he forced them to hold him. A captain did not speak to ancient beings while kneeling. "You ask why we do not break," June said quietly. "But the truth is, we do break. Often." A murmur ran through the council. Some of the matriarchs looked confused, others intrigued. "Humans are not unbreakable," June continued. "We fall down. We fail. We lose hope. Every human alive has known moments of complete despair, moments when the weight of living seemed too heavy to carry." He paused, gathering his thoughts. The council waited in silence. "But there is something else you felt in my soul, Elder Sorvina. Something that lives alongside the pain. Did you feel it?" Sorvina nodded slowly. "I felt many things, human. I felt grief and fear, yes. But I also felt love. So much love. Not just for those you know, but for strangers. For people you have never met. Why?" June smiled gently. "Because that is our secret. That is how we survive the weight." He looked around at the hundreds of ancient faces watching him. "You asked how we continue without sharing our emotions like you do. The answer is that we do share. Not through soul touch or mental connection, but through our actions." He thought of his brother Jin, who had died too young. When we are broken, others help us stand. When we are lost, others guide us home. When we are weak, others lend us their strength. We cannot feel each other's pain directly, so we learn to recognize it in other ways. We look at each other's faces, listen to each other's words, pay attention to the small signs that something is wrong. Lieutenant Kim Hana was crying softly, watching her captain explain the heart of humanity to beings who had never understood it before. And when we see someone struggling, June continued, we reach out. We offer help. Sometimes it is a friend or family member. Sometimes it is a complete stranger. It does not matter. We have learned that helping others is the same as helping ourselves because we are all connected through our shared humanity. He met Servina's red eyes without fear. You Valorians share emotions naturally. It is as easy as breathing for you. But we humans must choose to connect. Every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, every hand extended in friendship is a choice we make. That choice is what makes us who we are. The chamber was completely silent now. Every Valorian was listening with full attention. We cannot carry each other's pain inside our mind, June said softly, so we learned to carry each other instead. He thought of all the humans who had ever helped someone in need, parents caring for children, friends supporting each other through hard times, strangers stopping to help accident victims, volunteers serving food to the hungry, doctors healing the sick. Every human you saw in my memory, he said, every moment of love and connection, those were people choosing to share their strength with others. We are not alone in our suffering. We never have been. We simply express our connection differently than you do. Sorvina was silent for a long moment. Her ancient face showed emotions that June could not read. Finally, she spoke. In all my centuries of life, she said slowly, I have never met a species quite like yours. You carry impossible burdens with no way to lighten them through direct sharing. Yet instead of collapsing under the weight, you invented a different kind of sharing. You carry each other. She stepped down from her position and walked toward June. The other matriarchs parted to let her pass. When she stood before him, she reached out her hand and placed it gently on his shoulder. You have passed the trial of resonance, Captain Park June of humanity, not through the strength of your soul alone, but through the love I felt burning inside you. Love for your brother. Love for your crew. Love for billions of strangers you call fellow humans. She raised her voice so the entire chamber could hear. I declare that humanity is worthy of our friendship. Let it be known that from this day forward, humans are welcome on Valora Prime as honored partners and allies. The chamber erupted in sound. Hundreds of Valorian voices rose in approval. Some were cheering. Others were crying. Many were doing both. Hana rushed forward and embraced June. Tay joined them a moment later. The three humans held each other tightly, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Ambassador Lyra approached them with a warm smile. You did it, Captain. You showed them who humanity truly is. I just told the truth, June replied. That is all any of us can do. The celebration continued for hours. The Valorian matriarchs came down one by one to greet the humans properly. Many of them performed the soul touch with Hana and Tay, wanting to experience human emotion for themselves. Counselor Venna approached Dr. Lee Tay with tears in her golden eyes. I have studied many species in my long life, she said. None have moved me like yours. You call yourselves weak, but you are stronger than anyone I have ever known. Attaché Kira found Ensign Choi Su after he came down from the ship with the rest of the crew to join the celebration. She grabbed his hands with excitement. You are heroes now, she said happily. Your whole species. The Council has never accepted outsiders so quickly. Elder Sorvina herself cried for you. Do you understand how amazing that is? Su laughed and shook his head. I still do not fully understand everything that happened, but I am glad it worked out well. Kira pulled him toward a group of young Valorians. Come, my friends want to meet you. They have so many questions about human music and art and food. You must tell them everything. Su let himself be dragged away, smiling at the enthusiasm of his new alien friend. As the celebration continued, a new tradition was born. Ambassador Lyra announced that when Valorians met humans in the future, they would still offer the soul touch as a sign of respect. But humans could respond in their own way, with a handshake and spoken words. I offer you my trust, the human would say. And that would be enough. The treaty between humanity and the Valorian people was signed the next day. It was a simple document that promised friendship, cooperation, and mutual respect. But everyone knew it represented something much larger. It was proof that different species, no matter how strange they seemed to each other at first, could find understanding if they tried. The horizon's edge prepared to return to Earth. The crew said goodbye to their Valorian friends with hugs and handshakes, and for some, gentle soul touches. Attaché Kira gave Ensign Choi Su a second memory crystal. "This one has songs from the celebration last night," she said, "so you will always remember this day." Sue took her hands in his. "I will never forget any of this. Or you." Kira smiled brightly. "Then we will meet again someday. That is a promise." Ambassador Lyra shared a final soul touch with Lieutenant Kim Hana. When they pulled apart, both of them had tears in their eyes. "You were the bridge between our peoples," Lyra said. "Without your courage, none of this would have happened. Thank you, my friend." "Thank you for giving us a chance," Hana replied, "for being patient when we did not understand your customs, for believing in us when we made mistakes." Captain Park Jun stood on the observation deck as the ship prepared to leave orbit. The beautiful purple and blue world of Valora Prime hung in the darkness below. Soon it would shrink to a dot of light, and then disappear among the millions of other stars. Lieutenant Kim Hana joined him at the window. She stood quietly for a moment, looking at the planet where so much had changed. "Do you think they truly understand us now?" she asked. June thought about the question. He remembered Elder Sorvina's tears, Ambassador Lyra's wonder, Attaché Kira's enthusiasm. He remembered the hundreds of Valorians who had touched human souls and been amazed by what they found. He smiled softly. "Maybe not completely. We are still very different species with different ways of living and feeling, but they are willing to try to understand us. They reached out across the distance between our worlds with open hearts." He turned to face Hana. "And that is how every good friendship begins. Not with perfect understanding, but with the willingness to try. The rest comes with time." The ship's engines hummed to life. Slowly, the horizon's edge began to move away from Valora Prime, carrying the first formal alliance treaty between humanity and the stars. June watched until the alien world became a small, bright dot in the endless darkness. Somewhere down there, ancient beings were still thinking about the strange creatures who carried each other through the pain of existence. Somewhere down there, new stories were being told about the burning souls of humanity. He hoped it was the beginning of many more stories to come. The ship jumped to hyperspace, and the stars stretched into lines of light. They were going home, but they were no longer alone. They had found friends among the stars, and humanity had taken its first true step into the galaxy.